They were sitting on the same couch, but they might as well have been in different time zones. Every conversation felt like a minefield, where one wrong step could set off an explosion of anger or a week of icy silence. Those quiet moments weren't peaceful. They were heavy, filled with unspoken resentments and the ghosts of old fights. They loved each other, or at least they remembered what it felt like. But now, they were getting dangerously close to becoming another statistic. They'd tried everything: date nights, fancy vacations, even just ignoring their problems, hoping they'd magically disappear. What they didn't know was that one missing ingredient was silently eroding the very foundation of their bond. In this video, we're going to reveal what that ingredient is, and I'll share 3 simple but incredibly powerful habits that can transform a relationship from a place of fear and distance into a sanctuary of unbreakable trust and intimacy. For this couple, the big change didn't come from a dramatic movie-style fight. It came on a quiet Tuesday night. One of them turned to the other and asked simply, "Are you happy?" And for the first time, instead of the usual, "I'm fine," the answer was a heartbreakingly honest, "No. Are you?" That single moment of raw, painful honesty cracked open a door they had both been avoiding. They finally admitted the truth. They didn't feel safe with each other anymore. And that's the most critical ingredient for a relationship that lasts: emotional safety. So what is it? Emotional safety is the feeling that you can be your full, authentic self with your partner without any fear of being judged, shamed, dismissed, or punished. It's that deep gut feeling that says, I can be vulnerable here, I can be imperfect here, I can be honest, and I will still be loved. This isn't about bubble wrapping your relationship so no one ever feels uncomfortable. That's impossible. It's about knowing that even when conflict comes up, your partner is still on your team, not your enemy. Recent research in neurobiology, especially Dr. Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory, shows us why this is so vital. Our nervous systems are constantly scanning our environment for cues of safety or danger. When you feel emotionally safe with your partner, your body literally relaxes, your heart rate calms, and you enter a state of social engagement where you can connect and be intimate. But when you feel emotionally unsafe, when you're scared of criticism or contempt, your body floods with stress hormones. It triggers your fight or flight response. In that state, connection is biologically impossible. You can't connect with someone your nervous system sees as a threat. And as the brilliant researcher Dr. Brené Brown teaches, without trust and the vulnerability that comes with it, you can't have real intimacy. The couple on the couch realized they'd been living in a constant, low-grade state of fight or flight, always braced for the next jab or misunderstanding. Their journey back to each other didn't start with fixing their problems. It started with making it safe enough to even talk about them. They did this by building 3 core habits. Habit number 1, listen to understand, not to respond. One of the fastest ways to kill emotional safety is to listen defensively. Most of us don't really listen to our partners. We're just waiting for our turn to talk. We're busy building our case, gathering our evidence, or just waiting for a pause so we can jump in and explain why we're right. That's listening to respond, and it sends a clear message. My agenda is more important than your feelings. Listening to understand is a total game changer. It means hitting pause on your own defensiveness and making your only goal to understand your partner's world. It's about getting curious about what they're feeling. So, what does this actually look like? It comes down to 2 skills: validation and mirroring. Validation doesn't mean you agree. It just means you accept that their feelings are real for them. It's being able to say, I can see how what I said hurt you, even if you think you did nothing wrong. Phrases like, it makes sense you'd feel that way, or, wow, that sounds incredibly frustrating, are like magic. They tell your partner that their feelings are valid and respected. Mirroring is just reflecting back what you heard them say. It's like holding up a mirror to their words. For example, okay, so what I'm hearing is that when I work late without calling, it makes you feel unimportant and forgotten. Is that right? This simple act does 2 amazing things. It forces you to actually listen, and it makes your partner feel truly heard. For our couple, this was a revolution. The husband used to get defensive when his wife mentioned his long hours. He'd launch into a list of all the reasons he had to stay late, which just made her feel dismissed. When they tried this habit, the conversation transformed. She said, "I feel so alone when you're gone all the time." Instead of defending himself, he took a breath and said, "It sounds like you're feeling really lonely and that you miss me. That makes sense." And suddenly, she wasn't an opponent to be debated. She was a partner to be understood. Habit number 2, honor each other's boundaries and tender spots. Everyone has emotional tender spots. Old wounds from childhood, past relationships, or deep-seated insecurities. In an unsafe relationship, these spots get weaponized during fights. A partner might use an insecurity about your job to win an argument, which is a massive betrayal. Building safety means learning your partner's tender spots and agreeing to treat them with care. It's like having a map of each other's hearts and knowing which areas need a gentle touch. This takes courage and honesty. You can ask each other, "What topics are hard for you? When do you feel most defensive? What's a past hurt that I should know about so I don't accidentally step on it?" Sharing these vulnerabilities is an act of trust, and protecting them is an act of love. Just as important is setting and respecting boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're guidelines to teach people how to love you better. A boundary might be, "I can't talk about this if you're raising your voice. I'm happy to come back to it when we can both be calm." Or, "I need about 20 minutes to myself after work, before I can jump into talking about our day." In an emotionally safe relationship, no is not a bad word. When a partner's boundary is respected, not debated or guilt-tripped, it sends a powerful message. Your needs matter here. Our couple realized they'd been stomping on each other's boundaries for years. The wife was sensitive about her career change, and her husband would make jokes that made her feel small. He, on the other hand, needed space after a conflict, but her anxiety would cause her to follow him, demanding they resolve it right now. So they sat down and mapped out these tender spots and boundaries. He swore he'd never use her career as a punchline again, and she promised to give him 30 minutes of space after a fight. It wasn't about avoiding conflict. It was about handling it with respect. Habit number 3, turn towards, not away. According to the brilliant researchers at the Gottman Institute, trust and intimacy are built in tiny, seemingly insignificant moments. They call these bids for connection. A bid is any attempt to get attention, affirmation, or affection. It can be as small as, "Wow, look at that sunset," or as big as, "I'm really worried about my presentation tomorrow." In each of these moments, you have a choice. You can turn towards the bid or turn away from it. Turning towards is simple. For the sunset bid, it's just, "That is gorgeous." For the presentation bid, it's, "Tell me about it. What's on your mind?" Turning away is when you ignore, dismiss, or get hostile. It's staying silent, grunting from behind your phone, or saying, "Can't you see I'm busy?" Doctors John and Julie Gottman found that couples who were still happily married after 6 years turned towards each other's bids 86% of the time. The couples who divorced? Only 33% of the time. Connection isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in the tiny moments of daily life. Every time you turn towards a bid, you make a deposit in your relationship's emotional bank account. Every time you turn away, you make a withdrawal. When that account is overdrawn, the relationship is in crisis. For our couple, turning away had become the norm. A comment about a song was met with silence. A sigh of frustration was ignored. They were both starving for connection, but had forgotten how to ask for it. So they made a pact to start small. When one pointed out something funny, the other would laugh with them. When one said, "I'm so exhausted," the other would say, "It's been a long week, hasn't it?" These moments were small, but woven together over time, they created a powerful rope of trust. It's very important who you choose as your partner. because the wrong person will use these habits against you without hesitation. That's why you must be careful with what you say, and even more careful with who you say it to. If you're not sure you feel emotionally safe with someone, step back, think, and analyze their actions closely. The truth is simple. The person you choose can either build your peace or quietly destroy it. Choose with clarity, not with fear.